Fairy Tail. It's a lot of people's favorite thing to hate, but it's also one of the most loved shows in the anime community, period. Sometimes compared to things like the Big Three, the new Big Three, and the true deities of the world. And just to get it out of the way, I don't like it. It's shit for the most part, and that's the hill I'll die on. But even so, Fairy Tail's ability to bring me fucking stupid amounts of ironic joy is why I love it so much and will never stop loving it. And so, today I'm starting, John? What are we calling this human shit within waste of time? Oh, and so today I'm starting the Fatingaling thing with the help of my friend Brad, who for all intents and purposes of the joke will mostly be my support behind the scenes. Close your DMs for even a second, and I will end. If you haven't read or seen Fairy Tail, the series follows a group of wizards as they go on adventures and do magic. I thought this section would take longer, but I kinda don't have anything to say here. The anime ended up having roughly 320-ish episodes, with the manga capping off at a comfy 545 chapters. If you have any personal interest in Fairy Tail, I recommend reading or watching it before sitting through whatever I'm about to present to you. Because despite all my memes and jokes, Fairy Tail is fun, and I do recommend it as simple junk food. Last but not least, before I finally get into, you know, the topic of the fucking video, I implore you to not take whatever they say in these videos too seriously. You can enjoy something I think is bad, and you can hate something I say is great. That's fine. Just don't come into my comment section or holding bothered like Nazi Dragon with 007 trying to post some steamy shit. Keep that in your pants, you're a big boy. Let's actually talk fairies and bees now. Surprisingly enough, Fairy Tail has a great start. Some minor censorship and differences between the anime and manga here and there, but it's basically the same story. Kinda. Weirdly enough though, the more and more raunchy Mashima got with his fanservice over the years, the more the anime rushed to smash the censorship button. Shame, truly. We start off with a simple, albeit strong introduction, quickly meeting two of the main characters, Satan and Mophead. Mashima was pushing for that Mophead a little too hard with Natsu's early design in my opinion, so he always feels uncanny on rereads. On that topic, did you know Natsu was gonna have fucking horns at one point? Would've made some plot points seem questionable later on, but I'd go with that over this. But oh well, that's fine. Moving on, we learn they're looking for a fire dragon. A fucking fire dragon! In this peaceful little place. Which should tell me what we're dealing with for the rest of the series. Not the brain dead characters, I meant the dragon. Seconds after this poor son of a bitch gets, well, quite frankly, taken away, we get introduced to Lucy. Now's a good time to mention that my mate Brad made his own Google document with his notes as he read through the content we'll be covering in this video. In it, but mostly in our DMs, you'd find comments that can best be explained with this image. We get our first censorship of the series, and she buys a dog, making for Mashima's second reference to Rave Master, his previous work. It's legitimately really sad how underused magic items are, and it's a giant waste of potential. I understand Mashima wanted to highlight the cooler parts of his world, like you don't really want to see Ichigo pull out an AK and snipe Grimmjow across the map. You want to see him clap his cheeks with his edgy anime sword, and that's perfectly understandable, but still it would have been nice to see them used for more than gags or one-off situations in arcs. Anywho, the following scene is the biggest sign that Mashima didn't plan out for where the series would eventually go. So we have this good old fucking Chad using a charm spell to get female attention, because he's secretly planning to Morgiana all of their asses with a twist of Mopman comes in thinking he's about to see Salamander, a fucking dragon, and gets disappointed when he doesn't. I know the show plays it off as a joke later because they're fucking retarded, but considering how determined Natsu is to find this fucking dragon. Okay, I'll stop. You would think he wouldn't forget that it's a massive dragon that he's looking for and that he probably wouldn't find me here. It's poor writing introducing a mystery that makes no logical sense and is skilled up for the sake of a joke, which is sadly one of Mashima's bad habits. Natsu getting in there to investigate breaks the charm spell put over Lucy since, as we're told, it's broken through awareness of it taking effect on a person. But the other ladies there were all horny soccer moms, so they're still charmed, I guess. No, I'm kidding. It makes perfect sense, since earlier on we're informed that Harjian doesn't have that many wizards, making the fact that most people won't realize they're being charmed, or the very existence of the charm spell, more believable and natural. I'm just guessing here since the other women aren't really addressed. Oh, and a cute little thing the anime decided to do is give the charm spell a physical form. It's a ring the non-salamander guy wears, whereas in the manga he doesn't wear rings at all. It's not really shown, it's just a spell in the manga. Because of all the practically nothing these valiant heroes did, Lucy decides to waste a bit of money on them by buying them food. This scene This fucking scene right here is terrible. You know how great writers are able to hide the direct intent of a given scene with well-written dialogue? This is the opposite of that. The way Lucy explains all of this guilt shit is so incredibly inorganic. Looking back on this scene after finishing the chapter, it makes it clear that Lucy's talking to me and you. She's not explaining it to them. She's yelling it in our faces. Guilds need to be explained. I know. It's information that's necessary for the story to work, but this is a really sloppy way of getting that info out of the way. I read this scene, watched this scene, twice. It kept taking me out of the moment. I'm probably exaggerating and it doesn't matter much, I'm ready to admit that. But I want to be detailed about all of this to keep you distracted from my inability to write a proper script. But come on, it's so abrupt. It's like, yeah, I know I look bland and plain, but I'm a wizard. Not like I'm in a guild or anything. Oh, by the way, a guild is... There's this embarrassingly bad scene right after where Lucy foreshadows Mira Jane's whole shtick. Though to be completely fair, saying anything gets foreshadowed in this series, or at least in the early portions of this series, is a giant fucking stretch, and we get a pretty painful display of illogical bullshit. So this guy jumps out of a random bush for some reason looking for Lucy specifically. As we later learn, this dashing Chad right here is gathering up slaves on his ship and disguising the whole plan as a yacht party. So it boggles my mind that he'd go looking for one specific woman when he's already got a bunch of charmed kidnappees. It makes it exponentially more stupid when he learns that she's a wizard and still tries to get her specifically, when there's a small chance she might fuck up his whole operation because she can't be charmed. For a second, I was hoping Lucy would do something smart and just walk away, but the second this fucking moron mentions fairy tale, a guild she's interested in, she's on his dick. This is our main character. Alright, so later on she goes to the yacht bullshit and lo and behold 5 seconds in she's about to get drugged. This might be a good time to mention the cut content and censorship in this section of the story. I'll skip the small continuity differences like how when Aquarius makes a tsunami his the ship, Mopman and Chadman are in different locations depending on how you're experiencing the fight, manga or anime. That stuff's pretty minuscule and I'll look past it. But still the amount of pure censorship here is surprising. Like when I was going through One Piece I was surprised they chose not to show Luffy stabbing himself in the eye, because it's not really graphic in a sense, but I know why they censored it. But here we have the sedatives in the manga are made to be sleep magic in the anime. Bora's, oh yeah, by the way, this guy's name is Bora. His henchmen don't have guns in the anime, well they do in the manga. The whole scene where Bora was gonna fucking brand Lucy isn't in the anime. Basically, a lot of shit is missing, some dialogue too. This gag about dragons teaching people Dragon Slayer magic is surprisingly important for one of the stupidest fucking plot points in all of media way down the line, but hey, let's cut it. On a kind of similar note, I want to highlight that the fairy tale anime and manga can sometimes be two shockingly different experiences, at least compared to other shonen adaptations. Due to that good old etchiness, is that a word? Entire scenes will take place in different locations, like in the Sun Village arc if I recall correctly, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I understand why it was done that way. Maybe some people aren't down for the retarded levels of fanservice Mashima has in his manga and want a more standard experience, at least in that specific area. I completely respect that, but I don't get airs of titties that way, so fuck you. Oh, wait, fuck. I went off track. The fight's pretty cool. Natsu claps that host's cheeks and says he'll get Lucy into fairy tale. The end of episode 1. You're not escaping me that easily, bitch. Get on board. Episode 2 is where this arc gets its name, kind of. We get quick introductions to a few characters. We got Queen, should be prisoner, Mood, Elfman, best bitch, and a small cameo by the other best bitch. No one else matters. We get introduced to the whole ideology of fairy tale as a guild, which sounds awesome and badass, but when you step outside of the bubble and the moment itself for a second, they're being encouraged to fail at life and not give a shit if they commit crimes and just do their own thing? I mean, they won't fail at life because it's shonen. But now we get introduced to the main point of this arc. I forgot this was an arc. Some little shit's dad who's going to a freezing mountain on a mission, alone, and Natsu realizes he's the MC, so he goes to handle that bitch. But on a serious note, there's this one really fantastic moment here where Mira Jane explains that Natsu and the kid, Romeo, are practically the same. Like how everyone in the guild is the same. They have their own struggles and past issues that's led them to where they are now. And while that's not true at all for most members, as far as we're made aware, it's a fantastic, solid moment made better by the anime's wonderful score. Everyone out there goes through their own unbearable bullshit at some point, and it's hard. But you can get through it and find your own shtick, your own mates to drink energy drinks with while you play Smash. It's a very easy to empathize with scene is what I'm saying. Alright, enough of that shit. Forgot to mention how Natsu's got motion sickness. It genuinely hurts me to say that that's a very important plot point for later on. On Hakube Mountain where Mako is, oh my god, that's the name of the art! You find out that most of Lucy's keys are bullshit cosmetics and only 2 or maybe 3, if I'm being generous, of them will ever matter and be consistently integral into situations. I love how the question of why would you tag along gets completely ignored, because in reality she has no reason to be there. Mashima just didn't give a shit and needed a damsel in distress. That is the entire reason. But as that fact begins to sink in, oh shit, is it Wiz? I mean a Vulcan. Clever. He kidnaps Lucy and we almost have a fucking rape scene? Wouldn't be the last time, but damn. Anywho, Lucy once again shows off that her celestial keys are about as useful as a pink-haired anime bitch. And Natsu claps that hoe. There's some pretty shitty and downright stupid changes here, but before I mention those, how the fuck does the Vulcan thing work? Body possession implies there's an original body that possesses a person, and it's even explained that way in the anime through the visuals, but there's no body after Mako gets back to normal. I don't get it. So, the anime decides to cut an entire scene where everyone falls from the side of the mountain where they get saved by Lucy's cow. They also decided to give Natsu a first aid kit to heal Mako with, just so they wouldn't have to have the scene where Natsu burns the guy's wound shut, which is infinitely more badass than what the anime went with. I guess they're trying to push the show to be more kid-friendly? I don't know, but I don't care. It's dumb. The episode, and with it the arc, round off with a really cute and wholesome scene. And with that, we move on to the Daybreak arc. Fuck. The Daybreak arc is pretty interesting, mainly because it doesn't suck poopy horse dick and is unironically pretty good. It's simple as most things fairy tale are, and it doesn't try to be more than it is, a cute little side quest, essentially. The first chunk of the episode is dedicated to explaining Lucy's celestial key thingies because they exist, that's the only reason. It's not worth the 7 minutes, but hey, there's this thing. That's a cool reference. Mophead and the blonde thing go on a mission to destroy a book, as per requested, for 200,000 jewel, the currency in the fairy tale universe. No clue what the fuck a jewel equates to, but let's just roll with it. A few small shenanigans and bad gags later, as well as a little important factoid about how Natsu can't eat his own flames. We arrive at the mansion of KB Melon. And before you ask, yes, there's a melon joke. Almost instantly. The show is smart. The unfortunately named man tells him to go commit a crime at this rich One Piece looking motherfucker's mansion by burning his personal property, or more specifically a book. Considering how the next arc, Lullaby, is all about people who've lost their civil rights for killing people and committing crimes, shouldn't it be, you know, not allowed to hire people to do this kind of thing? But I guess this is the same show that had a giant yacht filled with female slaves and no one ever noticed, so who cares? He's done some bad things, the law doesn't matter at this point, it's okay, we're fairy tale. They go to Duke Everlu's mansion and the blonde thing tries to get in as a maid, but just ends up being sad over getting called ugly. This man is known for being a lecher and a pervert, so I guess she did want to get fingered while making adobo chicken? Sure. In the end, they casually sneak in, clap a few beautiful ladies that find them, and get their hands on the book that's been sitting in the guy's library. And then Lucy does the stupidest thing a character can do in that situation. She sees the book's been written by an author she loves and literally gives up on the job right then and there. This is the main character. And even when Natsu has this really good moment telling her to shut up and give him the book because this is their fucking job, she starts reading it then and there. I hate this character so much. So much. She gets better. I admit that she does get better, almost objectively better. But now? Also, she says the book might hold some kind of secret after reading it for 5 minutes, and later on we learn that the only real basis she had for that is, this book is bad, but the author's usually good, so I know something must be up. This is our main character. In the manga, there's a neat plot point where the Vanish brothers and the Everloo guy was spying on the MCs via these crystal balls that were apparently sitting somewhere in the open hall where Natsu beat the maids, but that's not the point. The balls were mentioned and explained in the manga. The anime opts to go for the simple visual storytelling, which is to say they just show two crystal balls at two different points and never explain what they do or what the significance of them is. Good luck, bucko. You're smart. You can figure it out through the audio cues. This is a fucking B-horror movie at this point, Jesus Christ. Okay, come on. It's been pretty shitty so far, which contradicts the first sentence I said about this arc. Fuck. But now we have the Vanish Brothers fight. There's no way it's gonna be bad. Okay, so for starters, it's visually cool. By far the most dynamic fight we've had so far. There's some cool and badass animation as well as choreography on display, and that's pretty cool. But it's a horrible adaptation in every way. Most of the fight's choreography is anime exclusive, and they only adapt the manga during the important bits. Which would be fine if they didn't contradict something established in the same episode. Natsu eats his own flame in the anime. He fires it at the bitches, they fire it back at him, and he eats that bitch. Only in the anime. In the manga he engulfs himself in it, which is also stupid because it's never explained, but he doesn't eat it. So the anime just ruined a plot point that was made. There's this very retarded point these two loofahs with legs try to assert. Wizards train their wisdom and knowledge, apparently leaving their bodies weak. They get completely clapped by Natsu, a wizard, a minute later. Not much to say here, but it's very funny. Meanwhile, Lucy's using magic to honestly commit war crimes to obtain. Probably put it out of her ass, let's be honest. And her fight with Everloo also happens, and it's shown that celestial wizards can use normal magic and don't just have to rely on their keys. I'll be fair and admit I don't really remember if it was ever stated whether or not celestial wizards can use ability magic, aka normal magic that doesn't involve their keys and whatnot, but I don't think they ever do that going forward, so I'm leaving this in. Another fun thing is that Everloo really fucking powerful. This is, again, probably the result of Majima not having his world planned out or not planning ahead at all in any way whatsoever, but Lucy can keep her spirits out for who knows how long, and summoning two at once knocks her off her shit completely, as we'll later see. But this Chad, this One Piece rip-off looking motherfucker, can consistently have his version of Virgo out at all times. Just at all times. That aside, they have this moment where they mention how amazing it is that Natsu managed to get through the celestial dimension, or whatever they call it, which I guess sounds pretty dope, but then they all go to party there before the Grand Magic Games a bit later on, and there's a major time difference between the worlds. I'm too lazy to think about how that should be affecting this situation, because fuck calculating that shit, but those fuckers had a 3-month time skip after one night in there. After one night, so make of that what you will. Back to the fight. Oh, okay, I guess it's over. We got this fantastic scene that, yeah, has some flaws, obviously, but the flashback is almost flawless, and it grabbed me really hard in the manga. I mentioned this already, so I won't go on and on about it, but they keep trying to water down the serious scenes as much as they fucking can with their censorships. Yeah, boys, let's turn this emotional suicide scene into he just died. That'll be cool as hell. But all of that aside, the ending to this arc is fantastic. The shake with the book is clever and well done, and by far the most entertaining finale this series has had yet. So with that positivity in mind, let's move on to Lullaby. Yeah, John? What is this? The fuck is this shit? 11... There's 11 more minutes of filler in this episode? No, I'm not doing that, John. I'm not... John? Get the fuck out with your script. John! Alright, so I won't talk about this in length, since it's filler. But it says it's a pretty cool kind of connection between Daybreak and Lullaby, which I can easily take over as suddenly jumping into a new story arc, or Dragon Ball style and such. We got a fun introduction to Kageyama, and we learn that these people don't know how trees work. Neat! The Lullaby arc is fucking stupid. The whole thing revolves around the Dark Guild that kills people when killing and assassination has been banned, and they feel discriminated against when they're breaking the law. Let me go steal a pack of 10-minute noodles and wonder why I'm being chased by the police. I'm sure I'm not the one at fault, but whatever. We got a quick rundown on the hierarchy of the fairy tale world, which is neat and all, but it never really becomes relevant to a large extent, as far as I remember. The hierarchical slash political part of fairy tale and its world always felt like a minor detail in a more physical story, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, I'm just saying. There's this really cool scene where Mashima foreshadows Loki's whole character arc, and that's cool to see because A, it feels like he actually had an idea of what his character arc would be and it's actually planned out, and B, Loki's best bitch. Ersa also comes back from a quest that basically exists in the story just to make her look cool and to give her an excuse to not be here for a little bit before this arc, which also cool. But I want to point something out. This might be because I watched the show dubbed, but Urza mentions Natsu and Grey are the strongest wizards in the guild.
The two of you are the strongest wizards here.
Which, I'm becoming redundant, but I'd...
The two of you are the strongest wizards here.
Long story short, Urza drags the bastards on a mission and explains that she overheard some Eisenwald wizards talking about some shady shit on her way back from her mission. With Eisenwald being a dark guild, they take a shot in the dark and decide to investigate the whole situation. Lucy's coming along because they don't have a solid enough reason for me to care, but she's coming along too. Can I mention how hilariously made for TV movie evil the Eisenwald guild looks? I cracked up when they played this generic ass track during Erigor's debut. Everything here screams plain as wood. We learned that Kageyama, the lad from the filler section of the end of Daybreak, has found it being Lullaby. That's the name of the arc! I actually forgot to do that joke with Daybreak, so you're getting it here. Back on the train that I forgot to mention they actually got on a train, they repeat the same gag from episode 1, except this time it actually leads to something related to the plot. I like how they completely butchered this entire train scene. In the manga, Kageyama gives off a surprisingly intimidating vibe until he reveals himself to be a generic villain, and that's cool, until the actual reveal. But there's this conversation that carries some tension, and it's really surprisingly good. In the anime, they just completely cut that shit out and jump into the scuffle. Fuck's sake. Fuck's sake! The manga was bad enough with the following scenes where they mention Zeref, an important character who appears later on, but the anime goes above and beyond to visualize him. It looks really fucking cringy. Plus the whole plot point about him in this specific arc contradicts his character. Spoiler alert, but Zeref's just a man with a curse that kills living things around him. His only real goal is to just die, so I don't get why he'd create a flute that kills anyone who hears it, especially considering his pretty docile nature. This is never addressed again. After a scene where they forgot Erza's lip flaps in the dub, we have another terrible scene with Eisenwald. I don't even need to go over their scenes. You can easily feel the AIDS flowing through you just from the B-roll footage on screen. It's exactly what you think you have seen this scene before. Many times. There's also this scene where Happy forgets something that'll definitely be unimportant and not relevant to the plot. It's also brought up very inorganically and feels very shoehorned in. But now we're at the broadcasting station, and here we have the funniest scene in the entire arc. We want to show those assholes what it feels like to have your rights stolen. The injustice of this world deserves to be known instead of ignored. Yes, I kill people, but they banned killing. So I'm not the one at fault for continuing to murder people. That's just my job, and they're unjust. This is the entire arc. This is the entire arc. Fighting happens and we learn about requipping, which is like the whole celestial spirit bullshit, but it never gets explored in nearly as much detail. It very much just exists and you will probably forget about it. Urza claps a bunch of bitches and essentially she's benched for the rest of the arc because she got tired driving a magical car. But they also had the fucking audacity to ruin her decent fucking fight scene with a filler scene of Lucy fighting. Well, literally why? Ray also has his first canon fight, and it's actually pretty cool. And very funny in the dub.
Ice makes shield. This punk uses ice magic. Ice make knuckle.
The evil bad guy man robs the entire station in a tornado and traps everyone inside. And soon after reveal that, oh no! His real goal is to kill the old guild masters having their meeting in that one house, secluded house thing place. Cause come on guys, he just killed people, he doesn't deserve being discriminated against. Whoa, it's just a job. Natsu fights this guy, kind of boring, but it results in them cornering the bastards, and as I totally didn't forget to mention, Kageyama can dispel magic, aka he can get rid of the tornado. Good on him, he can be useful and... Oh shit. More annoying Lucy dialogue later, it's revealed that Happy has one of Duke Everlu's keys, Virgo, the fat one, and she can dig holes, so they can fuck out of there and save the day. But no, we'll waste, what, 5 minutes of the episode on just gags and setting up Virgo's dynamic with Lucy, I guess? People are dying. I also want to highlight that I don't get how celestial spirits work. It's explained that Virgo's contract with Everlu got broken once he got arrested, and then she apparently casually walked up to Happy and asked for Lucy to save her or have her. What? How did him getting arrested break his contract? Does Virgo just really hate illegal shit? Then why'd she even sign up to work with Everlu in the first place, considering he's a fucking corrupt piece of shit? I don't get it. So they break out after more jokes, with people are fucking dying, and Kageyama has this whole "you never defeat us, fuck you, Batman" speech, which made me chuckle, and I actually kind of stole that joke from Crimson Rogue. Go watch Crimson Rogue, he deserves the views more than me. And then Fairy Tail makes up another new rule. It's honestly impressive to me how low we're stooping to allow the main characters to win here. Well, Natsu kicks off his fight with Erigor, and we have this very well-written scene with Kageyama, which is surprising to me as well, where Kageyama is just low-key trying to intimidate them by saying Erigor only gives a shit about himself and no one else, so it doesn't matter if they kill Kageyama or not. But then Gray turns to him and says that it's not just about life and death, and there's also the future to consider as well. I love that. Thank you, Mashima. You wrote something wonderful. Fuck you! Fuck you! No, John, I am not fucking doing this bullshit. Fuck you, John, you piece of shit! I'm angry, I'm pissed. The tonal ineptitude of this man in his early years of writing this shit-written piece of garbage is shameless. Fucking shameless. Fuck you, and especially fuck me for being a dumbass and letting myself get drawn into this piece of shit. Next scene. God. Ursa's still all fucked up from driving the magical car, and her vision's getting blurry, she's tired, and etc. Don't expect that to be consistent. During the fight we get this anime exclusive flashback of Mako teaching Natsu how fire doesn't always have to burn things? What? And then Natsu makes a grapple hook thingy with his fire, which looks disgustingly ugly in the anime, and gets back up to the bridge he was knocked off from. And he does this himself in the manga and doesn't need a fucking encouraging flashback to his childhood that helps him do it. I don't get that change at all. It's also low-key confirmed that emotions translate into magic power. All my arguments are officially completely invalidated because emotions translate into magic. Logic doesn't fucking matter. Natsu clogs that bitch, and the day is... well, it's almost saved. Kageyama steals the magical car and drives off in an attempt to kill the guild masters on his own using Lullaby, and credit where it's due, he almost succeeds, standing in front of Makarov with full permission from the man himself to sound off the flute. It's also strongly implied that Makarov knows about Lullaby, or at the very least he's aware that Kageyama is trying to pull some shit, but it's not explicitly told to us as the audience, which I very much like. And the scene that follows is fucking beautiful. As Kageyama begins hesitating, thinking over all he's known so far and all he was forced to experience over the span of the arc, he's sure that blowing the flute will fix everything, that everything will change. But then...
nothing's going to change.
Nothing will change. Weak people will always be weak. But not everything weak has to be evil. Humans basically start out weak. Guilds exist because it's frightening to be alone. The entire speech is beautiful. No jokes, no downplays, just a very good scene done well, executed pretty much to perfection. The perfect finale to the Lullaby arc, as well as this video. John, I am not reading that. The arc is done, fuck off. There's no need for anything after this. The video is probably already too long. I'm over 5,000 words into the script. Please don't make me continue. John, John! Okay, so we've got a bit more to go. I can only assume Marshmallow thought this arc was about to end on a too good of a note and decided to throw one last jab in the mix, one last ass hair in my pudding. While they're cheering and being happy over Kageyama not fucking killing everybody, the flute decides to just become a sentient Chad and unleashes the beast within, a beast from the Book of Zareth. It'll be more relevant later on, let's just say. The stupid part about this is, it makes no logical sense whatsoever, by any standard. The whole point of the flute is that you gotta play it. You lied to me as a viewer about its effect. Sure, cool, it just contains a demon. Okay, fine. But you can't give me a key to a room with a demon inside it and have that demon just come out whenever it wants without me using the fucking key. Fuck it. Whatever. I've been lenient enough. Watch one more. They clap the bitch, you go home so Natsu and Nezuko can have their ultra super duper climactic fight.
Ursa Scarlet, you are under arrest! You know, this may be the dumbest thing you've ever done. Now where did that fat one run off to?